Attention, duelists! If you could all stop staring at my hair for a moment.
We got some more content for you. Today, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to run you through my top 10 favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I own. These aren't necessarily the most expensive, but these are the ones that are definitely the special cards that are really close to my heart. This is the 20th year that I've been playing Duel Monsters, so I want to share my top 10 with you guys right now. Let's get into it. All right, before we get into the top 10, I want to list some honorable mentions. So first off, starting this list may come as a surprise to a lot of people and maybe draw some question marks. Amazement Administrator Arlecchino. I didn't get back into Duel Monsters until last year. It was around springtime where I really started paying attention to the releases. I've always kind of kept an eye on what was happening in the game, but never really followed it consistently. So this was the first major card that actually took me by surprise and really got me excited to start a new archetype. I wasn't really big into archetypes before this, but when the Amazement Monsters came out, I got really excited, and I feel like Arlecchino is a super underestimated card, and I really want them to make more Amazement Monsters because using with what has already been released, it's a really fun deck. I like the way it operates. It just needs a little bit more because it's lacking some defense. The second honorable mention is going to go to this Horn of Heaven card. I actually got this from my buddy Creepy, who you met in the Battle of Chaos vs. Dawn of Majesty opening a couple of videos ago, and he actually traded me this card years ago. It was probably about 18 years ago by now, and I've always held on to it. The funny part about this card is back in the day, I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. When he traded it to me, I didn't realize this sucker had some big time creasage. It's unfortunate. This is actually how I got the card from him. It's unfortunate because it is a first edition Metal Raiders, but unfortunately it's got that nasty crease on the back. Luckily, we use card sleeves now, so it's very easy to hide, and it's still one of my favorite cards. So starting off at number 10, this is a card that I pulled all the way back when Strike of Neos came out. And I was a little bit in and out of the game at the time, but I still had a lot of interest in building my decks that I currently had. My decks went through a lot of transition as a kid. When I was starting the game off in 2002, I literally just started off with the Dark Magician deck. It kind of over time turned into a Dark Magician / Fiend deck, and I also had a Machine Water deck, if that makes any sense. And at the time, because of some of the cards, in terms of a deck that was built around strategy, it actually worked, but the more cards that were released, the less and less it started to work for obvious reasons. My water deck was something that I really enjoyed, and when I pulled this Ultimate Rare Spiral Dragon, it absolutely blew me away. I love the effect on it. I love the spiral effect. It's an absolutely gorgeous card. I almost sold it, and then I pulled it back and I was like, nah, I gotta keep this for my personal collection. It's lightly played, but I still use it in my water deck, and it's still one of my favorites to this day. Coming in at number 9 for me, the Flash of the Forbidden Spell first edition card. It is an ultimate rare. This card I pulled straight from a pack, and I was absolutely blown away. It's a little bit tricky of a card. You need all the monsters in your opponent's monster zone to be occupied in order to activate it. But back in the day, it was a favorite of mine. I love when my opponent was just stacking monster on monster on monster, thinking they were going to lay the smack down, and then you activate Flash of the Forbidden Spell, and it was just a beauty to see all those bad boys go right to the graveyard. Next on the list is Torrential Tribute. This is a trap card, again, that I pulled from Labyrinth of Nightmare. This was one of the first boxes that I ever purchased way back in the day. I actually drew this out of that box along with a couple of cards, one of which that I'm going to be featuring on this list as well. But again, this was right around the time that I started building the water deck. So Torrential Tribute, I love this card. It's still used heavily today. Just got that awesome collector's rare upgrade, and I definitely want to get my hands on it. But this is one of my favorite trap cards of all time. Coming in at number 7 on this list, XYZ Dragon Cannon. This is the original one that I got from the Kaiba Collector's Tin way back in the day. This one was actually pretty surprising because I remember seeing this in the stores, and I was curious what Kaiba was doing with this machine monster. And this was right before they had actually featured these cards on the television show. So when Kaiba actually busted them out, I was in love. And this was actually the introduction of Union monsters, which still have some legacy to them, but we're starting to see some XYZ Dragon Cannon support cards that have been released lately, and I personally am very excited about it because that is the archetype that I use in my machine deck. It's a lot of fun to run, and the A to Z fusion monster they just released with it is really cool too. Super devastating. I love this card. This is one of my favorite fusion monsters of all time. Number 6 on the list, Curse Necrofear. Now here's the deal. Way back in the day, as I mentioned, I had a deck. My main deck was Dark Magician mixed with Fiend monsters, mainly Dark Necrofear. And when this card was released, and when I found out about this card's released and all the support for Dark Necrofear, I got really excited. It is my favorite Fiend monster without a doubt, and the fact that it got so much support like this card, Curse Necrofear, really takes it over the top and really added so much to the deck. Now we're getting into the top 5, and out of Absolute Power Force, a card that I drew straight from the pack, first edition, Ultimate Rare Garlandoff, King of Destruction. As I mentioned before, this was a major addition to my Fiend deck, and I was so stoked when I got it. This sucker went into my deck immediately, and I still love this awesome ritual card. Basically love just how it hits the field and just bombs the crap out of it. Finally, we made it to my favorite Fiend monster that has ever been made in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Necrofear. I remember going to the Gibraltar Trade Center in Michigan. It was basically this big place in Mount Clemens and in Taylor where you could go and you could do all sorts of stuff. You could get a tattoo, you could adopt an abused animal, you could do all sorts of stuff. But they had a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon dealers. And there was this dude, Ronnie, who used to sell us boxes. It was the first time that we actually bought boxes. And I remember pulling Labyrinth of Nightmare. I pulled the Masked Beast, and then I drew this card. And I was forever in love. This is such a unique effect at the time, to be able to banish monsters from your graveyard, to special summon a monster, and then take control of a monster once it leaves the field by any means, is still an absolutely amazing card, and I love it to this day. There's no doubt about number 3 on this list, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now here's the thing, everybody had this hyped up big time. I was never crazy about Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and to be honest, I don't even use it in my Spellcaster deck, which may seem a little silly because everybody is all about this card. I do agree that this card is absolutely phenomenal, but when I opened up a box of Brothers of Legend and the pre-release, we were opening up the box, we only bought one, and I was never ever expecting that we would pull this. And when we found out that this card was pulled, when I first heard that it was pulled, it wasn't pulled by me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I thought for some reason that somebody was playing a joke on me, because I never imagined that we could have pulled this card, and amazingly we did. And Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is an absolutely beautiful card in Starlight Rare, and I never imagined that we would ever draw this thing, and we did. And I want to get it graded. It's a little off center, which has me a little worried, but for now we just keep it protected. But I just could not believe that we pulled this card. I really don't have this kind of amazing luck when it comes to pulling the Searcher card, but we did, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I love the fact that we own one. Number 2 on the list is a new card from Battle of Chaos, and it may shock people, but Illusion of Chaos is a card that absolutely blows my mind. The fact that it's also activating in the hand is incredible. I don't think I've ever seen another ritual card do that. On top of that, it has made the Dark Magician deck such a force now with this added help with Master of Chaos and Magic Kuriboh. I feel like Illusion of Chaos is probably the coolest ritual monster, Dark Magician related, that they have ever come up with. Both of its effects are so crucial when it comes to this deck, and I am so excited to start playing with this thing. This may take the Dark Magician deck to another level. Obviously, when you talk about Dark Magician support, you gotta talk about Magician Souls, of course. That card really set it off. But once Chronicle Magician hopefully makes its way to the TCG, that will add yet another strong boost to this Dark Magician archetype that we are seeing having such an explosive year. Finally, the number 1 card in my list, the card I actually got this for $5 at the time. It is still one of my favorites, and that is the Shonen Jump Dark Magician. Absolutely beautiful. I love the black clothing. For so long I wanted one, and we finally got one. And when I got it, like I said, I was absolutely in love, and it's still so much fun when you're able to bust this out on your opponent. Just such a bold piece of artwork. It's just still one of my favorite cards. I love drawing it. It gets me super excited to play with the Dark Magician deck, and it is the favorite card that I own in my personal collection. So there we go. There is my top 10. Like I said, it wasn't necessarily the most expensive cards that I possess, but these are the ones that are more special to me. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys what your top 10 favorite cards are that you guys own. We will come at you. We got some more openings. We got a mystery box coming up later this week. So we're very excited to get into that. We'll talk to you soon. But until then,
Deuces.